Today we're gonna have a guest who will combine the reality with the imagination. We're gonna travel to California. We're gonna learn something else different. What about imagine someone who is able to create things on a different world? What about an illustrator, a person who worked on 3D? So I'm talking about Henrique Saucedo, a Brazilian from south of Brazil, today is developing his work in California. Welcome, Henrique.
Thank you. Thank you. It's so nice to be here.
So please tell us, a regular person from Rio Grande do Sul, extremely south of Brazil, traveled to the United States, attending one of the most high-profile academic university, BYU, Brigham Young University, and then turns to be an illustrator, a person who works with imagination. Tell us a little bit about your life and your career.
So I grew up in a place where people don't really leave. People just stay there. People grow up there, find a job in a town. But for some reason, at some point, my city just felt too small, and I just wanted to pursue something more and find something, new horizons. So I think that's what pushed me to pursue an academic life, an academic degree here in the United States, and then eventually moving out to California to ended up working in Hollywood with a couple of really AAA high-profile projects that have been really nice. So being an animator in LA, it sounds prestigious, but it's very hard because there's a lot of animators here. So you have to really stand out and always go after the networking and finding and meeting new people and trying to stand out and show something different that recruiters and studios are looking for.
When you get a degree in computer animation at BYU, right? And then you come and you develop. I know you later you got an school and something like that. But tell a little bit, how is your work? And just for the people know, you work in some projects like Fortnite, Jumanji, Dolittle, Spellbreak. Tell a little bit about what was your work you do and how you into of this.
So the work that I do, Alex, is very interesting because we have to create something that doesn't exist. So some artists, if we're lucky, someone is gonna give us a storyboard of what they imagine for the scene, which is a couple of drawings of where they want the characters to be and what they want the characters to do. But most of the time, they give us a concept. They say, we want someone running in this frame from right to left and is running that way, and it has to be a very active. So they describe the action, and then we have to incorporate that action into, and then we receive a character that is literally in a T-pose, and you have to go ahead and grab those controls and move them and make sure that they're moving right, that they look right, that they look like human. And it's very tedious. It takes a lot of time to do something that your boss is gonna like, but you get used to it and you know that it's part of the job. And it's great because it's also working with animation and working with imagination and creating worlds that people really invest in it. For instance, my latest work came out this morning at 1 a.m. for Fortnite, and it was a live event, right? So everyone was online, like playing it with it. And it was very interesting to see that something that I have worked on for so many weeks comes out and people are so excited about it. And then right after the trailer that I did for Fortnite, it jumps into the game where it gives the opportunity of the player to be part of the story that was just told. And it was really exciting to watch that and really satisfying.
You know, you said a word is fascinating. It is fascinating. And then one thing I want to mention is I'm a little older than you. But when we talk about an artist, a person who draws, like, and on my time, the person has the skills to do a nice little art thing, and now it's different. So I'm asking you, what about the Walt Disney? If today's Walt Disney will be alive, how will we deal with this? How will be able to build all his work and the computer on imagination? How that works? Because we live in a different world right now.
Yeah. So I think that if he was still alive, he would still be pushing the boundaries of what would be fun and what would be possible. Because when he was alive, he was always just milking the creativity out of people that was around him and pushing them to be their best and do things that they even didn't know that they were able to. But he always had a vision, and that's why people around him accomplished so many things. And I feel like if this was the case today, we would see things that we haven't seen yet.
Well, and now I want to mention the fact, like, when you develop something, now the animation, you do all the work you have been doing. I think the biggest challenge is to make the people get into the game, into the animation. Looks like, I remember maybe a decade ago or something like that, we had movies who turned to be games. Now we have games, and several of them turns to be movie. So it means like you guys like taking over and over and over. And I remember one thing is it was, I think it was, what it was, the Warcraft was almost a $500 million movie who came from a game. How is that working?
It's interesting because people connect with games now a lot more than we used to. When I was growing up, I remember playing games, and it wasn't something personal. It was more like the fascination of playing something that was on TV. Nowadays, for instance, I just bought a VR set recently, and it's incredible that you're a part of the story now. You make choices, you take chances, and you're a character, and you choose your own fate. So I feel like games have been connecting with people now even more than before, by giving the player the opportunity of being part of the story. So I think that pulls people into the story and giving the opportunity of people caring enough to consume a film about it. And so of course, when people are part of the story and they see their story on the big screen, they want to go watch it. And I think that's what gives people the motivation to consume all this and to be part of, the animation industry, either with gaming or film.
Now I want to leave the side of the animation, leave the side of the art, the movie, the games. Get into the mind of the Henrique Saucedo. How works Henrique Saucedo minds? How you have new ideas? Do you wake up with, I want to do this, or you project something? Because this is like, as we've mentioned before, fascinating. So I want to know, what is the mind of Henrique Saucedo?
It's exhausting. It's working 24/7. It doesn't stop. Sometimes I'm about to go to bed, I'm like half asleep, and then I have an idea, and then I have to get up and write it down. Or like when I wake up, I'm barely waking up and I have an idea, and I jump out of bed. I'm like, I need to work something about this, because otherwise I'm gonna forget, or I have to write it down. So I'm like, of course, I'm involved in like 15 different projects, because they're all ideas that I had and they're not related. But it's always looking at something that is very ordinary, walking down the street, seeing a person walking a dog, and imagining a story of a dog walking a person, and how would that be, how that dynamic would be, what would the world be like, what are the rules of the world, and what else happens that is inverted. So there's a lot, my mind is always finding the deepening and the reasoning of the things in the stories, and the motivation of characters to do something. And right now I'm directing my own short. I'm involved with a studio that is developing my short, and it's really interesting to be part of all the parts of a production pipeline. And my brain is just, it's just, it's always jogging every day, trying to exercise and get bigger muscles of imagination and creativity to work and, you know, to produce more.
I can be wrong, but the fact like you always generating new ideas, probably you have way more ideas who didn't go anywhere, but the one who very successful, right? Because
Yeah.
it definitely it says how is that works? Who will be the person who will say, okay, Enrique, sorry, but that's not a good idea or didn't go through, or well, who is the person who challenge you or decide how things gonna go and progress?
In the animation industry, when you work for a studio, you have the executives that will either give you the green light and say, go ahead and develop this project because it's fun, let's bring other people. But more often than not, they turn it down because, you know, there's a lot more motivations in a studio than just telling a story. There's, you know, a whole studio behind it. But that's why I've been doing a lot of personal projects, because there's no executives to tell me no. So I've been trying to learn as much as I can about animation, even after school, because the technologies and the things, they never stop being developed. So I need to stay up to date with my software, with animation. My husband also works at animation, and he pushes me to, and he always questions me on decisions and stories and say like, is this a good story? Is this, if I were gonna do something different, it would be like this. And we're also always bouncing off ideas of what a story could be like, could look like.
In animation today, it used to be a child thing, and then comes the youth thing, and today is for everyone. So it's basically your work today, it's completely open to all generations, but probably you need sometimes to drive a little bit more forward, correct?
Yeah. So I feel like animation, the people who follow animation have been growing with the industry. Like me, for instance, I remember watching the first Toy Story in movie theaters, and now I am here working on projects like Toy Story in 3D, and that was a groundbreaking moment in animation where we crossed the 2D and we started 3D. And even in that transition, a lot of people were left behind because they thought that real animation was only hand-drawn. So a lot of people didn't make the transition to 3D. And now we're making the transition from just films to games in virtual reality. And there's a new shift where a lot of people are very resistant to it. And I feel like, unfortunately, a lot of people will be left behind if you don't stay up to date as well. So it's a growing industry that is growing with the people, and it more and more is expanding its horizons to more a bigger demographic, if you say.
Yeah, I just received a message here to say Toy Story was a project of Steve Jobs. Yes, right. And so, and all these projects you develop with such a high profile jobs, as I mentioned, Fortnite, Jumanji, Dolittle, Spellbreak. What do you identify was the best? What you did? What the one you really? Because sometimes it's not the most impressive, but the one who you identify. Oh, that's what I want to do, and you really realize I did a great job over here. Which one you identify?
I think it was my first project, Jumanji, the next level. I remember I was doing an apprenticeship program in this company, and after all the classes, they said, okay, so me and my coworkers just said, each one of you are going to be assigned to a show. And then when they told me that I was working on Jumanji, it was just something that hit me inside, and I was like, oh, I finally made it. And here I am working on projects that people be dying to work for. and I made it. I'm working on a big project studio, and I can't talk to anyone about it because I signed an NDA, and I can be excited, but it has to be only here with my coworkers because no one out there can know. Otherwise, I get fired.
Fantastic, fantastic. And you know,
So, yeah.
we all facing a challenge time. Oh, where this is like the hardest time in our lifetime, and it's just like we dealing with such a difficult thing. You know, I know in California, what is one of the most restrictive orders in our whole United States. I'm in Florida, what's way more open and flexible. But as all this period and the challenges we have been facing, uh, what you predict or what kind of work you would like to do, especially because you know we all need something right now. We kind of like a feeling. We all get our self-esteem low. What's coming up for give a properly positive message on your work? I know you probably wake up sometimes think about that because any project with that will receive a very well reception because we're feeling, man. We're all suffering. So it's like
Yeah.
work like yours will make difference.
Thank you. I think that what I expect and what I think, in my opinion, would be something that people would like today would be. So I've noticed that in Hulu, for instance, the streaming service, they have shows about the pandemic. They're like, oh, quarantine and this and that. And I feel like in a year, no one's gonna watch that because no one wants to remember quarantine or watch shows about it and what it feels like. Maybe in 100 years, people want to go back and watch and feel like, what happened in 2020? But our generation that is going through right now, like everyone of all ages, they want to be taken away from quarantine. So everything that doesn't remind them of quarantine, or a pandemic, um, everything that brings them to a different world with a different reality, or even in the world before all this happened, you know, I think this is what's going to be more popular.
That's a good thing. And as I said, we all want a good and positive message. What's
Yeah.
the next project on Henrique Saucedo? What's coming up on what is in your on your computer right there, right now? What are you working on?
So I'm working on, as I said before, like my own short film, where I'm telling a story about two characters, and there's a team involved in it. And we started a year and a half ago, and we still have a couple of years to go for a 7-minute short film. So it's a long time. Yeah. And also I'm working on a personal project of turning myself and my husband into two characters, and we're gonna make them into two friends who interact with each other, and it's gonna be very exciting and fun. And so stay tuned for it.
This is fantastic. Huh? This is fantastic. I will also visit your website, henriquesaucedo.com. That's pretty cool. I saw a lot of interesting things there. And we, as a Brazilian, we always, come on, we never can cut our connections. What you did or what you planning to do on animations towards to Brazil?
I am actually working on a future work with someone from Brazil who is world renowned, but I can't talk about it right now. So it's something very exciting to be in a position where I might be the only Brazilian in the production. So people are coming to me with a lot of questions of like, how does the person do this or do that? Like, what is it like in Brazil? Is this okay? And I am the voice of Brazil in this project and saying the yes or no's. And I'm also going to be working in animation on this. So can't talk about it right now, but I promise that it's going to be great. So stay tuned.
Fantastic. I'm telling you, I didn't know your work. It 2 hours to come to the interview. I have to prepare myself. I have to educate, and I start to searching about your work, and then literally, it's fantastic, and very happy to see a person who comes from my state be so successful. So I would like you, please tell us And on the top of that, not just the projects, but what the message you would like to know and what the message you really try to do with your work.
My message, the bottom line of all my messages that that's something interesting that you asked me that, Alex, because that's something that I think about a lot. What does Henrique stand for with my projects, with my work? And I feel like mostly to show people that we're a lot more alike than we think. Because nowadays it's really easy to judge someone because of their party affiliation, judge someone because the color of their skin, judge someone because of who they love. That I just want to, through my story, to show that we're a lot more alike. We have a lot more in common, even if we come from different backgrounds. That we mostly just want the same thing, which is to love and be loved and be happy and connect with people. Nowadays, the internet is very volatile. So I'm trying to be a force for good and just make people calm down a little bit with my message.
Henrique, love to be loved, and fantastic work. Congratulations.
Thank
Wish
you.
you keep doing and challenge and develop a great project. We all will celebrating.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, guys.